Central business arm helps farmers sell during lockdown. Namah files application against Pandemic Act. And football duo clarifies stand since joining Hekari.
This is National EMTV News with Helen Seah.
Good evening and thanks for joining us for Wednesday's news. A provincial business arm is now buying fresh produce from its local farmers and is reselling it to businesses. This is the Ani Ani Corporation of the Central Province. CEO Ruben Ayla says the corporation is doing the province a favor during the lockdown by buying produce from its farmers and at the same time preventing a vast number of its citizens into Port Moresby, which is currently the epicenter of COVID-19.
A roadblock at Bautama, the border of Central Province and nearby Port Moresby. Here, the necessary checks are done on vehicles coming into the city and going out to the villages of Central along the Magi. This is just one of the border checks set up during the lockdown period to ensure limited movement into the nation's capital. PMVs are not allowed into the city, only those with emergency needs and present reasons for essential business. The restrictions now places a big challenge for farmers whose fresh produce essentially supplies the big city. Such fresh supplies difficult to turn away. The Central Provincial Government established business arm is buying the produce.
It said that you cannot turn the ordinary, simple, innocent villager back with the produce. It's heartbreaking. So we have come in. It's very ad hoc. We've just been directed to come in and come up with a strategy how to complement this PMV restriction.
This is welcoming news for some of the vendors.
So because you walking easy life lo man lo kam putio kai kai lo ya skelim na uba bobegen lo ya.
Some don't agree with the price that's been paid.
Skelim lo 150 or 7 plus sali lo boroko marketem plus sali lo 7 kina na about 8 kina 10 kina na about.
The deal in reality is a good one though. At 1 kina per kilo, those with hard food stuff like banana will get up to 80 kina. An estimated 50 kina more than the usual price in Port Moresby. Minus the usual abuse, plus they can return home right away on the same truck after buying essential supplies.
It doesn't restrict them to go into the city to buy, but what we are doing is minimize your movement. You're better off, safer at the village, at home.
The food bought off by Ani Ani Corporation is resold to businesses in the nation's capital or is given as donation to the food bank. The exercise is expected to last until the end of the lockdown. Bradley Valenaki, National EMTV News.
Some communities in the nation's capital, Port Moresby, are taking initiatives to do voluntary work in the fight against COVID-19 in the city, as confirmed case numbers continue to soar. As authorities put in place more measures in efforts to contain the spread of the virus, the movement of people and abiding by preventative measures is crucial. Telecom Compound, also known as PTC Compound in NCD, have put in place voluntary youths monitoring entry and exit at the compound's main gate, creating awareness and encouraging the public to take preventative measures. EMTV News caught up with them this morning.
PTC Compound has been in existence for over 30 years now, with residents from different parts of PNG living in the area over the years. It has almost 300 houses in the community, where some people own the homes while others are renting properties. The youth volunteers at PTC have been promoting COVID-19 preventative measures for 5 days now, from 3 p.m. in the afternoons to 10 p.m. in the night.
The youths have been doing that with their own initiative. And I supported them by seeing them on the gate. And I said, thank you for the initiative. I thought of doing that, but I was mindful of the fact the coronavirus have no respect. to an individuals. And these youths are made up of individuals. So I supported them along the way. I was with them all that number of times and see them what they're doing in the operation. I thank God for the traveling public, the coroners. They come in, they respect, they stopped, and they body temperature check, and they pass through in and out. A lot of people coming in here.
The community leaders see the initiative as a positive influence where youths are engaged in activities that contribute for a good cause. The leaders say the initiative also keeps them away from engaging in bad activities that will only spoil their character and lead to them struggling in life and facing a future that is unpromising. Pastor Jeffrey Zongezia is a community leader and resident in the compound. He is also a pastor at Hohola Menja CLC Church. He has been part of implementing the initiative with the youths and encouraging them through prayer and devotion every morning before they begin their voluntary work.
This fight belongs to Papua New Guinea as a whole, and we want to encourage other communities. Don't wait for the government. We have to rise up and protect ourselves and our family, our community, our city, Papua New Guinea as a whole, because this is not respect of any human being on the planet Earth, and we are not immune to that. And if we can follow the COVID protocols and take extra measures when we are going in and coming out, and as you can see, the boys, we are basically doing awareness and make sure that the people are following the COVID protocols and wearing of masks, sanitizing hands and taking temperatures. So basically we've been doing it for almost 5 days now without any support from the government and private sectors, and of course we've been receiving support from our residents here, and I want to say thank you to all the telecom residents, those who've been coming and helping us.
Dennis Orare, National EMTV News.
As of yesterday evening, 3 new positive COVID-19 cases have been recorded, 2 from NCD and 1 from Kiunga. The Kiunga case is the 4th from the Western Province that have tested positive. 3 other cases were announced earlier on April 16th. Contact tracing for all 3 cases have begun. Meanwhile, Controller David Manning says that clusters at the Central Public Health Lab and Port Moresby General Hospital are a result of frontline health workers not adhering to the standard infection control measures.
The 3 new cases announced in a media statement last night, while the media statement announcing Kiunga's new case brings the provincial total to 4 and the 2 new cases for NCD. Amongst the paragraphs of the media statement, 1 paragraph stood out the most. The Controller David Manning stating the Central Public Health Laboratory and Port Moresby General Hospital cluster had to do with the frontline workers not using proper protective personal equipment. The sentence read, and I quote, "We have also detected clusters within the Port Moresby General Hospital and the Central Public Health Laboratory as a result of our advocates not adhering to the standard infection control practices and not wearing the correct personal protective equipment for the right type of jobs in these health facilities," end quote.
They're in the front line all the time, and I take my hats off to all the health workers. We're doing everything possible to ensure and keep our health workers, defense and police safe as we step up into the next round of elevated response in Port Moresby City. We will be ensuring that our health workers are protected, defense and police, and those in the front line are protected.
With due respect to our public health workers, they're doing a marvellous job. I join our Prime Minister, join our Deputy Controller in acknowledging our frontliners. They're doing a good job for the country.
This statement comes after they had repeatedly thanked the frontline workers for the service to the country and would get to the bottom of how testing labs and frontline hospitals had medical officers and their family tested positive for COVID-19. This highlights another issue: the nurses at Port Moresby General Hospital who went on strike for proper PPE to be used in the emergency ward after it was learned that they were supplied only masks and gloves. Later on, POM Gen changing this to level 2 PPE for emergency department staff, while at CPHL we are still unaware of what level of protection was given to lab tech staff who became the first positive case of COVID-19, leading to community transmission in the city. Ankara, National EMTV News.
Opposition leader Belden Namah has filed a Supreme Court application to challenge the legality of the recently passed National Pandemic Act. an act that Namah described as unconstitutional as it places emergency powers under an ordinary act, which can easily be manipulated by political interests. The 2020 Pandemic Act was passed in the June session of Parliament and has been in effect since the declaration of an indefinite health emergency nationwide.
The application filed before the Waigani Supreme Court comes 2 months after the Pandemic Act was passed on the floor of Parliament with a vote of 70 to 14. Those who voted against the act comprises mainly of opposition members, including East Sepik Governor Alan Bird. 2 months into enforcing measures outlined under the National Pandemic Act, and the opposition is now challenging its constitutionality.
We are taking this action to ask the court to strike down this law under Section 41 of the Constitution and declare it unconstitutional.
Notable sections of the Constitution highlighted by the opposition on why the Pandemic Act should be declared unconstitutional include the suspension of National Finance Management Act 1995 and the National Procurement Act 2018. It is inconsistent with the freedom from arbitrary search and appears to abolish that freedom altogether during a declaration. And Section 61 of the Act, which provides that the controller and his agents are not civilly or criminally liable for acts and omission in carrying out their duties.
I cannot, as a responsible leader representing the people of Animal Green and as the leader of the opposition, allow this act, which has many constitutional implications on our people, live unchecked and unchallenged.
This is the second time opposition leader Belden Namah is challenging the legality of a decision made by a reigning government. In 2012, Namah challenged the ONI-led government's decision to establish the then Manus Detention Center, which was used for processing asylum seekers. In 2016, the Supreme Court ruled that the detention center was illegally established and ordered for its closure. In this Supreme Court application filed today, Namah is asking the courts to have the Pandemic Act struck out as unconstitutional. Meanwhile, EMTV News has contacted the Office of the Prime Minister and the Pandemic Controller for a comment on this. Teklagunga, National EMTV News.
You're watching National EMTV News. We'll have more updates on COVID-19 after the break. Stay with us. Welcome back. As Papua New Guinea continues to see a rapid increase in the number of COVID-19 positive cases, especially in the nation's capital of Port Moresby, the Archdiocese of Port Moresby is making it their responsibility to ensure directives are followed. The Archbishop of Port Moresby has issued special directives for daily churchgoers. The following protocol measures are to be observed at all times. Only 50 people to attend Mass, both daily and on Sundays. Mandatory also for those attending marriages and First Holy Communion, as well as for spiritual gatherings. Baptism is suspended only for persons in danger of death. No confirmation this year. Mandatory mask wearing and physical distancing to be observed. Anointing of the sick are to be given to those in danger of death. The sign of peace is to be observed by waving, nodding, bowing or giving a smile to avoid physical contact. Preparation of sacraments can be done with strict observance of health protocols. And lastly, the reception of the Holy Communion is only by hand. All these measures must be practiced to mitigate the risk of contracting the virus in public areas like churches. The Deputy President of Mumang LLG in the Bulolo district, Morbe, said the district isn't ready to cater for a COVID-19 patient. Max Giamiti told EMTV News in Leh that there are no facilities available to accommodate COVID-19 patients. During a health conference in Leh 2 weeks ago, a health extension officer from WOW confirmed that there is an isolation center set up in the district.
Bulolo district community leaders told MTV News that the district wasn't ready to cater for COVID-19 cases. Mumang Deputy LLG President Max Giamiti said there aren't any facilities available and the locals are concerned due to the increased cases in the country.
Hospital, hospital. Inu ka tompla kar inu ka tompla facilities we ready blo keterim sla COVID-19 no come up. So anything come lo bulu now or tomorrow. Then people go to foul. So you know what the facility stuff available at time now. So that's why I'm all concerned when people receive member must address him good through that's like issue because people are going very dangerous now.
Hospital isolation center, Wow Air Center, I want to run down Air Center.
Morbe currently has 2 confirmed local COVID-19 cases. The first is of a 37-year-old man who flew into Leh from Port Moresby in July. The second case is of a 28-year-old man returned a positive result for COVID-19 on the weekend and is currently in isolation. According to the Morbe's health advisor Micah Yawing, funding is still a problem affecting COVID-19 operations in the province.
What we use is not enough. So this plan is to make sure that we have enough money to support us from like July to December, and then we will go forward to next year, 2021.
Morbe's district health officers who met in Leh during the health conference 2 weeks ago said transport is still a problem, hindering the COVID-19 awareness to the communities in the district. With much of the support being given by the NGOs and business houses, they are calling on the government and the MPs to work closely with them during the pandemic. Julie Badui, Owa, National MTV News, Leh.
The interim chairman of the Tourist Industry Association in Medang has pledged to support the prevention of COVID-19 in the province. Sir Peter Bata met with the provincial COVID-19 team in July to get an update on facilities that will be used for a possible introduction of COVID-19. The possibility of COVID-19 present in Medang will greatly affect the tourism industry, such as hotels, tour operators and airline operations.
Sir Peter Bata said the main concern is prevention, testing, quarantine and isolation of people who test positive to COVID-19. He said over 5 months, much of the prevention work in Medang was largely carried out by a group called MAM, funded by the private sector, and more recently, World Vision. Like many other provinces, Medang also has large informal settlements, many without water and sanitation, and are living in close contact with each other. Remote regions are difficult to access, and in the event the virus is detected in Medang, it could place the lives of many people at risk. Social distancing is a major concern in market, PMVs and coastal boats where locations are chronically overcrowded. Given the situation Medang is in, Sir Peter told the COVID committee that the industry wants to work with the committee in examining ways to set up facilities in preparation for a possible case. The Medang Tourist Industry Association remain concerned that after COVID-19, economic activities can be restored, adding the travel and tourist industry is amongst the hardest hit throughout the world, and Medang is no exception. But the main concern is to work together in partnership to save lives. Martha Louise, National MTV News, Medang.
Prime Minister James Marape has confirmed that PNG now has 136 reported cases of COVID-19. This after 2 new cases were identified in the National Capital District and 1 other coming from Kiunga in the Western Province. In a video conference with Australian counterpart Scott Morrison, Marape said the PNG government is doing its absolute best in trying to contain the virus and stop it from spreading. The Prime Minister also acknowledging the impact that COVID-19 measures would have on the national economy. Marape thanked the Australian Prime Minister for the assistance provided as Papua New Guinea fights the pandemic. Opposition leader Belda Namah is expected to release an official statement on the drug smuggling incident reported on July 26th, where a plane attempting to transport 70 kilograms of cocaine into Australia crashed near Papalea. Namah said it is worrying that the Prime Minister and the Police Minister have been silent about this issue. At this stage, no further reports have been announced on the investigation, except that 4 PNG men were arrested and more charges will be laid against the Australian pilots.
Because I believe there is much to it, and I will release my official statement tomorrow. And it is very worrying in the manner in which the Prime Minister has been mute, the Police Minister has been mute, if not given misleading and unfounded statements, praising the Australians and nothing about what Papua New Guinea is doing. All of that I will capture in my press conference tomorrow, and I would invite all the press to come because I got other information into this drug bust. It's more than what is being published in the social media and what the Police Minister is saying, and I am really saddened that we have a Police Minister who thinks he knows everything, but when it comes to this case, he seems to know nothing.
And a correction there, it was 750 kilograms of cocaine and not 70. Moving on, a 5-year development plan 2018 to 2022 for South Bougainville was launched by National Planning Minister Sam Bassel recently. The plan also includes the Bana Special Economic Zone Initiative, which will be gazetted by the government soon. When launching the development plan, the minister said the Special Economic Zone is one of the best economic models to encourage free trade and investments.
The Special Economic Zone will be located in Bana village in South Bougainville. Minister Basil says the Special Economic Zone will build a strong and robust economy, and both governments must invest significantly in this Special Economic Zone. In recent years, the national government has set up a number of free trade zones in the country. These include the Sepik Special Economic Zone, Hekari in Gulf Province, Manus and Najab in Morobe Province, and Bana Special Economic Zone in South Bougainville will be added to the list once it is gazetted. Minister Basil further highlighted the government's commitment to supporting the ABG government rebuild its economy and create a better future for the people. Among its commitment, the national government allocates 100 million kina over a 10-year period to the ABG government. The minister adding that part of the funding can be used to develop the Special Economic Zone. He assured the people that he will ensure the initiative is gazetted and sponsored by the National Executive Council. With the ABG elections coming up and ongoing campaigns, the minister appealed for a safe, free and fair election. He further gave his assurance to support the local MP to ensure the NID card system is completed on time in the district. Rayon Lakingu, National EMTV News.
The Hawa Correctional Facility in Hela Province received its first 13 low-risk prisoners from the Bihuta jail in Eastern Highlands Province on Monday. This is a result of an MOU that was signed last month between the CS Commissioner Stephen Pokanis and the Hela Provincial Administration to reopen the facility and allow low-risk prisoners to be detained there.
Hela province is synonymous with crime, violence, killing and the bad things. The provincial government has been working over time, starting from when the late Agiru was governor, to try to address law and order issues in this resource-rich province. A milestone achievement was reached last month when the Hela Provincial Authority signed an agreement with the Correctional Service to reopen the Hawa prison facility. The signing now enabled the first batch of low-risk prisoners to be housed at this new facility. 13 low-risk inmates left BUT jail on Sunday afternoon, overnighted at Buyebi, a prison facility in Southern Islands, and arrived in Hela on Monday to their new home. Person coordinating this program, Andiki Andane, is confident the inmates will be kept safe there. 14 correctional service officers are on site with staff housing in the same compound, and he is confident they can manage this place. Speaking over the phone, Andane said the 56-bed facility can hold high-risk prisoners too, but for now, only low-risk ones will be kept, while the high-risk cases are referred to BUT. Ella provincial government has an arrangement in place with BUT for high-risk prisoners from Ella to be transferred there. Building and construction activities are ongoing at the site, with a 18-man barracks being constructed, fencing for the old CIS facility, and construction of road around the fencing for guards to drive around easily when on duty. Ruth Rongola, National EMTV News.
And now looking at the NASFund market report, the kina opened unchanged at $0.288 in the interbank market. At Bank South Pacific, your kina is buying $0.2805, $0.3877 Australian dollars, $0.2297 euro, and 29.01 Japanese yen. Looking at commodity prices at New York close, gold is trading higher, coffee and cocoa closed lower, and copra closed higher. Crude oil is trading higher, palm oil and copper closed lower. And on the stock market, the Dow Jones closed at 164.07 points higher. The ASX 200 is trading at 36.9 points lower, and the All Ordinaries is trading at 30.4 points lower. You're watching National EMTV News. Among stories after the break, workers at Rita Flynn go on strike and the deadly bombing in Lebanon. Stay with us for the details. Welcome back to the news. Medical workers at the Rita Flynn Isolation Centre in the National Capital have gone on strike over non-payment of salaries. The medical workers have been employed on short-term contracts since the setup at Rita Flynn in March. A representative of the volunteers working at the facility, Namah, says since March only half of the allowances have been paid and the workers are frustrated.
The frustrations are quite evident, bearing in mind that these workers are part of the front line in the COVID-19 crisis. And workers' representative Namah says that despite the large amount of money being pumped into COVID-19 operations, to receive only half of their salaries was frustrating.
Since April, May, and we got our first payment on July, as I've said before, but it's not a full payment of our all outstanding issues, outstanding fortnights. It was just one or two payoffs, fortnights, and they said to bring it forward, but it's not happening. That's why it's a bit of frustration.
With the facility operating 24 hours a day, fully equipped and manned, Kange says the workers, all of whom are volunteers, have had little to show for it themselves, stating that two of their own staff were in isolation as well.
We have our two of our short-term contract staffs are actually in the ward now. They're infected with COVID-19 without their pay and anything. So it's it's really frustrating when it comes to paying these people.
The isolation facility currently has 38 inpatients, with 8 so far being discharged after recovering.
And the isolation is fully equipped with the help from the government and everyone, all these other donor agencies. We are fully equipped to have patients in there, and even we have patients recovering in there. The last time we sent 8 out, so it's all right. We are happy to work. Yeah, everything is funded by the government and everything is there, but it's just that a little bit of a loophole in the PHA health system of paying us, the workers.
Now, in a phone interview with the NCD Provincial Health Authority CEO Jerry Tanome, He says they have addressed concerns raised by the Rita Flynn staff who are on short-term contracts and assured that outstanding payment will be done by this week, Friday. Now, Tanumay stated that the delay was with the National Department of Health, whose closure had delayed payments over the past 3 months. And he's assured the workers here from earlier today that they would be paid. As of this morning, PNG's total is now 136. Jeremy Moggy, National EMTV News.
Landowner groups in the PNG LNG project in Hela province are urging for the swift release of outstanding infrastructure development grants. They say millions in IDG funding has been misused with no key infrastructure built in affected communities of the project or province. Chairman of Juha Special Purpose Authority, Peter Andama, says these IDGs must be released to the different factions in the LNG project so locals can build services to support them.
Landowner groups in the PNG LNG project of Hela gathered recently to share and express their views regarding the outstanding IDG grants. Many say there is nothing to show on the ground regarding funding allocated for IDG. A leader says the state must not deny money allocated for service delivery in affected areas.
Where Governor talk now 500 million stuff longan, where Marabe make a commitment longan, Mibla landowner is yet like work him. So that's why Mibla talk supersede him or revoke him this la 2014 decent NEC decision. Suppose M stop. Suppose also PDL 7 SPH chairman talk longan and been supersede finish law 2016 NEC decision lo pay him landowner. That's fine. Pay Mibla.
Since 2016, IDG funding for Hela has been released on ad hoc basis. However, to the Hela provincial government, which landowner groups say the provincial government was not part of the UBSA and LBBSA agreement, they say monies were misused.
So 2014, after that, 2015-16, and provincial government exim. Now, one project all making Mibla no sawa. Now, lot Mibla belad law. This is all misappropriation now. Mibla Sadim project law 2016.
The landowner groups expressed about 10 talking points and reasons why the state has to release the IDG funding. They are concerned that for too long, the process and court hearings have stopped or see millions diverted or not used for its purpose.
This line of talk nothing. And I need long long 2016. Long heights. Now this MOU, one clause, and the supposed government harem talking of fulfilling more commitment plongen, all project loans for holding project. Agreement in got finished.
Meanwhile, recently the Hela governor stated that about 500 million in IDG is owed and held back by the state.
I got a written advice from National Planning Secretary that they owe the province about 495 million kina, IDG alone. State has an obligation to pay my province about almost 60 million kina every year for infrastructure. And that has not been forthcoming during my term.
Jack Lopava Jr., National EMTV News.
And turning overseas, we begin with a warning. The images in this story may be confronting for some. The true extent of a massive explosion in Lebanon's capital Beirut is still unknown. More than a dozen people are dead and thousands injured. The blast sent shockwaves across the city. The cause of the explosion is still not known, but the country's prime minister is vowing to hold to account whoever is responsible.
It was a massive explosion. What? Another view from the bay. It looks as if dozens are dead and several thousand injured. And a country already deep in crisis has been hit by a catastrophe.
I don't know what happened. I was fishing. I heard there was a fire. I turned and started to head home and heard something explode. And then this happened.
This was the fire in Beirut port. The flashes, they say, were fireworks. Then something much bigger ignited. Lebanon's interior minister told local media it was ammonium nitrate, which had been stored there since 2014. It can be used as fertilizer or to make explosives. This is downtown Beirut, close to the Parliament building. Since the end of last year, Lebanon has been paralyzed by a political and economic crisis and street demonstrations before the country was gripped by the pandemic. The damage has spread across the city. The shock will run much deeper, and this tragedy risks pushing the Lebanese further into despair.
أعدكم أن هذه الكارثة لن تمر.
Hassan Diab, the Prime Minister, broadcast to the nation. He told them that those responsible would pay the price. Beirut's hospitals, already pressed hard by COVID-19, are faced with hundreds of casualties. And there is one big question. Who allowed the storage of so much deadly explosive for so long in a warehouse so close to the city centre?
And Trukai Sports is next. Kilawani is at the sports desk.
Thank you, Helen. Raymond Gunamba and Nigel Dabinyaba explain their move to Hekari United. Join me for that story and more in Trukai Sports. Stay tuned.
Trukai Sports.
Welcome to Trukai Sports. The recent groundbreaking ceremony of a multi-purpose stadium in New Ireland Province is a model project for PNG RFL in partnership with the local government of the province and the contractors involved. This is a first of its kind development for PNG RFL.
The Papua New Guinea Rugby Football League is at another level in terms of management and administration. With the recent groundbreaking ceremony for a multi-purpose stadium in New Ireland Province, Chairman Sandit Saka said the ceremony was a significant one for the PNG RFL executive arm.
But it was a very important occasion for the PNG RFL because at the 7th AGM we made a commitment. The AGM actually passed resolutions that approved the governance restructure. The governance restructure is an all-of-game restructure. It was a very fruitful 3 days for us, but what's important for us is it's the first time we're doing it. It's a new reform, and being in New Ireland, we want to get that first one right, and that's a blueprint that we want to replicate across the country.
In his pursuit to accentuate the standard of rugby league in all facets in the country, administration priorities were set to the idea of an overhaul in management structures and systems.
To establish provincial boards in each province that would take charge of all rugby league activities at the provincial level. That would mean all rugby league activities in a province would come under the provincial board, and then that would be supervised by the confederate board structure, and the PNG RFL was going to provide overall oversight. So in essence, it is a decentralized governance model.
The chairman acknowledged partnership with stakeholders as crucial relationships going forward in such an undertaking.
That board taking charge of rugby league, bringing all the key stakeholders like the provincial governments, the business communities and the game administrators and volunteers to work together, which we don't have now. We have leagues and schools programs that are entirely run by volunteers, so we need to put up that structure that has systems, processes and has credibility that is able to bring the key stakeholders in the province together to work together for the growth of the game.
The Rugby League fraternity has joined the people of Simbu and all Rugby League followers to mourn the death of a former PNG Kumul captain, Bal Numapo. Sending his condolences, PNG RFL Chairman Sandit Saka said Numapo, the bearer of Kumul jersey number 85 as a debutant in 1984, was and remains one of the best products of PNG Rugby League.
On behalf of the PNG RFL, the board, the management and staff. On behalf of myself and my family, I want to pass our sincere condolences to family of the late Bal Numapo. He was a great rugby league ambassador, a great Papua New Guinean, and a great son of Chimbo. He was a public servant as well, and he served the country well as a sportsman, and in his later years in his services to Chimbo province and the people of Papua New Guinea. So.
And Trukai Sports continues after the break. Stay with us.
Trukai Sports.
Welcome back to Trukai Sports. As if being removed from the Lay City FC club wasn't enough, Nigel Dabinyaba and Raymond Gunemba still have outstanding issues to sort with the club. According to their former club, their recruitment by Hekari United may be a breach of player transfer protocol. But the duo is defending their right to play for Hekari United.
Raymond Gunemba and Nigel Dabinyaba arguably are two key players any team in the Kumul Petroleum National Soccer League would want to have on their roster. Formerly of Lay City FC, the players found themselves without a club after a fallout between the team's sponsor. But it seems they still have unresolved issues. With the two players' recruitment to Hekari United now in question, an article released today by a daily newspaper quoted former General Secretary of PNGFA and acting NSL manager Dimirit Milang. Milang stated that if a player is not transferred according to regulations, the new club will be held accountable for breaching player transfer protocols. In the same article, franchise owner of Lay City Ian Chow was quoted saying that the two players were officially not released. But according to former captain of the team, Raymond Gunemba, they were in fact terminated from the team.
People looking on something and come up with paper. Awesome. Lay City suppose you only Mipla. I mean, you suspend Mipla, right? But this time you terminate Mipla and you bagarapi Mipla. Mipla, you know, even when I think all players Mipla. Mipla all players all stop low camp training on them also payroll. But Mipla boys Mipla come out, Mipla come, Mipla stop nothing without anything, no out on something.
Nigel Dabinyaba, while supporting his former captain, stated that they tried to reconcile and set up a meeting through email, but the response was not positive.
Bung try to straight email na salim go lo reconcile hem mouse blame na email te mem tok ibla no mo part do club mira usibla pini so ibla free logo paini na rabla club.
Hekari team manager Voni Capinato said they are free agents.
There is no way like I employ people or I have the team and one of the player I terminate him and he wants to play for another team. Me no got any power at all if come into football law. They are free agent.
Dabinyaba said they should not be held back because they had every right to choose whatever club they want to play with.
Mi plaga right lo move lo one club mi plaga like lo play one team. You know na own or sem force mi plaga lo stop back.
Voni added that Dimirit Milang is aware of the situation through correspondence between himself and the Lay City franchise owner.
To my knowledge, the former GS know everything. What really happened, he had received most of the correspondence from the former boss. So me feel him awesome. We just need to move on football. I think him no good lo suppressing people, knowing very well from our hearts. If I'm in Ian's shoe, I will know that sorry, so I can't talk about that.
The whole saga began when the players decided to move out when their coach Peter Gunemba was removed from the club back in March.
I'm talking you la move on them coach, you got right to move on them coach. So I'm one them decision na choice mi sana blame na mi move out.
Voni says she had to be sure the players were unattached to the Lay City franchise before recruiting them, stating that she had to go through negotiations for almost 2 to 3 months.
And when I knew that they were terminated, that's the reason I picked them and I didn't request for any transfer.
For the players, their signing to Hekari is a blessing after almost 5 months of unemployment.
My blood family very beginning, so last months since COVID, when I'm coming, my blood plenty blood to suffer.
Fidelis Sukina, Trukai Sports.
And that ends Trukai Sports. Weather forecast for the next 24 hours when we come back.
Trukai Sports. Hekari Sports.
This weather update is proudly brought to you by MoneyPlus, with you always.
I'll look at the weather forecast for the next 24 hours in the southern region. Mostly fine in Port Moresby, Daru, Kerema and Popondetta. And mostly fine, though occasionally cloudy in Alotau. In the Mamasa region, cloudy with occasional rain drizzles in Leh. Mostly fine weather in Medang and Wewak. Cloudy with occasional rain showers and drizzles in Vanimo. In the New Guinea Islands region, occasionally cloudy with possible showers in Lorengau. Mostly fine, though occasionally cloudy, then possible afternoon showers in Kavieng. Mostly fine weather in Kokoporabao and Buka. And mostly fine, though cloudy, then a chance of afternoon rain showers in Kimbe. And in the Highlands region, mostly fine, then likely chance of afternoon showers in Mount Hagen. Mostly fine, then possible afternoon showers in Goroka and Kundiawa. And partly cloudy with a chance of afternoon rain drizzles in Mendi and Wabeg.
The weather update was proudly brought to you by MoneyPlus, with you always.
And that's been the news, sport and weather for Wednesday, 5th of August 2020. We apologize for the technical difficulties experienced during our live broadcast, but a reminder, you can catch the replay of National EMTV News at 10 p.m. From all of us here at EMTV, pleasant viewing. Good night.